Ohio State wanted to see them rev the engine a little bit before their matchup against Oregon on the road in Autzen, and Ohio State, man, rev the engine. They did against what I think is at least a good Iowa defense. The offense, say what you want, still putting some pieces together, but 35-7, a final in Columbus, felt like a statement. Felt very statement-ish for Ohio State. Now, the big statement coming next week if you're a Buckeye fan, but felt very much so like a flag planting of sorts for the Buckeyes. Make sure you're locked in here if you're an Ohio State fan. If you're a college football fan, period, make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. We appreciate you in advance for being dialed in. Follow me on the socials now at JD Pickell, Instagram and on Twitter, to let me know what you thought about yesterday's madness across the CFB slate. And if you're an Ohio State fan, you're probably feeling like, okay, sweet. Yesterday seemed to be the day where if you were a top 5 ranked team, you were supposed to lose, and Ohio State was able to avoid that. Not just avoid that, man. It felt like they put together, I don't want to say the most complete game they've had all season. I think that's probably still out there if you're a Buckeye fan. But it felt like we got to see a little bit of this Ferrari rev the engine a little bit. Because you got to believe they kept it pretty vanilla for the first few games of the season. And yesterday they play a more formidable opponent in Iowa coming to Columbus. And I mean, what stuck out to me was just how versatile this team was. And we'll get more in depth on that in a little bit, but just like they had it all working. We saw all of it. We saw the Will Howard run game working. We saw him throw for 4 touchdowns. We saw Jeremiah Smith, take a second here, he is just hysterical. When he goes up and snags that one-handed touchdown, I was in my living room legitimately just cracking up. Like, it can't be serious. Like, this dude's a true freshman. And one, he just physically looks like that. He does not look anything like a true freshman. Second, he's making one-handed catch after one-handed catch. It feels like every single week. I was just cracking up like, this is unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable. And I mean, if you haven't gone and checked out that highlight, I would encourage you to do so. It wasn't just that. He also had 4 catches for 89 yards. Had a nice little 53 piece as well for his longest catch of the day. Like, he had it all working. And I say this a lot now. Ohio State, they have not one but 2, I believe, number 1 wide receivers. Because Emeka Egbuka yesterday, the guy who, I mean, he doesn't have the hype necessarily a Jeremiah Smith has. Emeka Egbuka, a lot of people forget, he's a 1,000-yard wide receiver when he's healthy. He had 3 touchdowns yesterday. Again, courtesy of Will Howard dealing the pill like a shady pharmacist. And also, by the way, that running back room, you got Quinshon Judkins and Travian Henderson, both averaged over 5.5 yards a carry yesterday. So we're starting to see now for Ohio State. Did they open up the entire arsenal? I don't think so. But I do think when you look at what they can be, it's a little bit frightening. Very, very frightening. And also, man, this defense of Iowa, I don't think is just some slouch operation. Like, we know this now. Iowa, they're going to play good special teams more often than not. They're going to bring a tough outfit in that front 7. So for them to play the way they played yesterday, Ohio State offensively, should be encouraging if you're a Buckeye fan, man. Defensively, we talk about what Iowa isn't offensively a fair amount, and that's 100%. I think a valid thing to say right now. I think Iowa is still putting it together on that side of the football. However, what stuck out to me yesterday was the real deal, like sideline to sideline ability that the second and third level of this Ohio State defense has. Like, these safeties, man, I think they got a bunch of NFL draft picks on the back end. I think they are able to eat up angles. I think they do a tremendous job being able to play the run and the pass. They have great instincts to trigger. Like, they make it very, very tough on you to be able to work quick game or work the horizontal pass game because they eat it up and they have great instincts to go track the near hip and get you for, if not a loss, a minimal gain. Like, there's very little yak happening whenever you're playing against that Ohio State secondary. That front 7 is also extremely salty. We know JT Tuimoloau. We know Jack Sawyer. We know what they are up front, and that gives them so much flexibility to run rampant on the second and third level of that defense like we just spoke to, man. Styles, number 6, he's a dog, dude. Like, the fact that he was a safety at one point and now you move him up playing linebacker and he's a guy who's a heat-seeking missile for you as well, they're going to be very difficult to move the football against. They're going to be very difficult. I'm just thinking about this now for the Oregon game. We're going to break that game down a little bit later on this channel. Oregon likes to work the sideline-to-sideline game. They like to be in that quick horizontal kind of pass game to get upfield. Ohio State matches up well with that. I'll just say that. And go back to what I said, I kind of got off track there. That defensive line of Ohio State, when you're able to get the push they are, that gives you a lot of flexibility to be creative, to be exotic in that second and third level because you feel pretty good about your defensive line being able to handle the inside run game, the outside run game. You feel good about that defensive line being able to hold it down. So leaving this game, is Iowa going to be the best team that Ohio State plays? No. However, I think we are starting to see a couple of traits from this Ohio State football team show themselves, and these traits to me are what most national title teams have. Not telling you Ohio State's winning the whole darn thing. You expect that if you're in Columbus, but these things I think we're encouraging to see. One, the versatility. And they said this during the broadcast, but I think everybody that was watching this saw this. Ohio State has the ability to play any style of game you want to play. Hey, we're playing a race to 45. You feel good about Ohio State with those wide receivers, with Will Howard, with this explosivity in the run game, with how multiple they can be under Chip Kelly. You feel good about that. Hey, it's going to be a take their air out of the football game. It's going to be played in the teens. It's going to be a rock fight. Ohio State can play that game. The defense I just spoke to, I think they are more than capable of being able to match up in that situation. They can play that game. The second part of this, the complementary football Ohio State plays, it sounds cliche. It's something that coaches talk about a lot, but they talk about it because it's impactful, because it's true. They do a great job, man. One, having each other's back. That's first of all. Second of all, they do a great job stacking W possessions from the defense and the offense. Like they are very, what I would say, like equally yoked if you're talking about these two units. It's not like the defense is holding up their end of the bargain and they're waiting on the Ohio State offense to get going. And if that's the situation, I think you feel good about that because the Ohio State offense eventually will get going. I digress. The offense is, I think, more than capable of being able to match what the defense brings to the table. So it's not the situation where it's like a defensive-led or an offensive-led football team. I think you feel pretty good about both outfits going into any given matchup. And so we're going to learn a lot about them next week on the road at Oregon. But I will say this. The ramp-up period now is over for Will Howard. Had a pick yesterday that makes you cringe a little bit. You saw that against Michigan State as well. I still think Will Howard is the answer for you if you're Ohio State to get to where you want to go, or at least he has the skill set to be the answer. And we said this last week a lot. I'm going to say it again right now. I'm tired of hearing, well, if Will Howard can just not mess it up. Sure, there's some situations where he's going to have to make sure he keeps everything within the lines and just operates the offense how he has to. But you brought Will Howard in to be the difference maker. You brought Will Howard in because at some point in time, whether it's next week on the road at Oregon, whether it's when Michigan comes to town that last game of the season, whether it's in the college football playoff, you will ask 18 to make the play for you to win the football game. Whether it's with his legs, whether it's down the field, whatever it is, you will ask him to make a play to win the football game for you. Okay, that's why you brought him here. If it was all about just keeping the car within the lines and just don't mess it up, I said this before, Kyle McCord can do that for you. Okay, he can. With all the talent you have around this offense, with everything that he had gone through last year, he took better care of the football than Will Howard did. If you want to talk about turnovers, I mean, he threw 6 interceptions. He had 2 in the Michigan game, but he threw 6 interceptions. Will Howard had 10 last year. I'm just saying, Will Howard will have to make a play to get Ohio State to where they want to be. Maybe it's multiple plays. I don't know, but I don't think the idea that he's just a game manager is a fair statement to make. Now, will they help him a lot in this offense? Of course. I just spoke to Jeremiah Smith being a freak show as a true freshman. The running back room, the OC, there's a lot around him. Emeka Egbuka, there's a lot around him to feel good about. But again, I think at some point in time, it does come back to 18. The ramp-up period is over now. Here we go. Going to Autzen next week, college game day, going to be a lot of fun. We have an early look for you coming out on this channel. We also will have a game prediction for you for Ohio State, Oregon on this channel live Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. So dial in for that. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But again, let me know on the socials, Instagram and Twitter, @JDPiquel, how you felt about this one. How you feel about Ohio State going in next week. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.